Welcome to another episode of Beastars Weekly. We're on week 3 now, and things have been going a little bit weird. So, first of all, the release is not anywhere in the West, and the usual people that subtitle it have been late this time, so I've had to scrounge the internet to find somebody who actually made the show available to watch for us. Not to mention, the end of last episode was so weird, it weirded me out so much that I can't really see where it's going from there. Many people have told me that the manga is like weirdly crazy with the places that it goes, and that it's only like a coincidental resemblance that it has to Zootopia. So, all that being said, let's get started with Beastars episode 3. This legit might be like, I know, I'm probably going to comment on this opening every single time I see it just because it's so amazing in what it sets out to do, when it ends up accomplishing. Like, I wonder how expensive it would be to make an anime fully in that stop motion style. I actually know a friend of mine actually does stop motion. If you follow my Twitter for any length of time, you might have seen that I tweeted out his movie that he made for a festival in his area. So I could just ask him how much time it would take to animate a full show like this, but I think he's going to say it's not going to be worth it, because it probably took a couple weeks just to make that opening, and it's only like 90 seconds. Imagine making 12 to 20 minute episodes. That's 240 minutes. It would take like 5 years to do that. So I wish there was more of that, but it's just so hard to make. Dang. Yo. This is a trope that I think needs to be more, freely used in anime. Because you always have like the kind of loose female character in like Western shows, and it's just like a trope that's so worn out at this point that no one even bothers to tap that mine anymore. But in Japanese media, I feel like this could be used, because we don't really get to see that. Everyone's always like, this is my first time ever doing anything with anyone. Like, I feel like that's really tired at this point. So when seeing this guy's face when he finds out that the person that he thought was going out with just him is like, oh yeah, we know her. It's like that. Oh yeah, I know her. It's cool. Yeah, I know who she is exactly. Like way more than you do. I just think it's an untapped source of comedy that we need to see more of, I think. Someone play that back in slow motion, because his reaction, this is what's so great about like animation, is his reaction was like a Wile E. Coyote, like his neck extended like 5 times longer than it usually is. You don't get those kind of reactions in live action. And they did it in CG too. That's what's even more impressive about that. That's so good. Oh, Legosi, you're so cool. Yo. This is not, I don't know if this is obviously intentional comedy, but like they just pull it off so great, because even if they're like anthropomorphic animals, you can just imagine the situation happening with a human, and he's like, oh, she's gonna get cold, I have to put a blanket on her, otherwise she's gonna get cold because she's not wearing anything. Like, that's where his brain is going. What is he thinking when he's running away? It's like, I escaped with my virginity. I almost lost it. Like, there was no bad outcome to that situation except this one. You've picked the worst world line to follow. Yeah, see, this is the kind of stuff that makes me remember Euphoria when I watch this show. Like, if you've seen Euphoria, there's like a similar plot point with a teen girl like working on Pornhub or whatever to make money. And this has a similar thing. In terms of like high school settings, like I was initially skeptical of the high school setting because it just seems like the default for pretty much every anime. But this show kind of goes out of its way to like actually deal with the realities of being in a high school setting, and it completely commits to that setting without worrying about like, usually it's just like a skin that they put in the background because it's so default that you kind of just make assumptions about various details of the background that they don't need to spend time telling you. Like, there are going to be senpais, that there are only so many years that you can be in high school. You know that there are this many, like all these festivals and events that they have to participate in, and you know that there are sports there. You know that about the social dynamics and like the different classes and everything. And these are all just things that we've learned by watching all these anime over the years. But this one kind of flips it on its head, because not only does it use a high school setting, but it kind of uses an unconventional high school setting. It's like a boarding school, it's a private school, there's a heavy focus on the arts, which is not something you usually see. And like the theater program is apparently a big deal, because like the valedictorian of the class is being told by the principal, I look forward to your theater performance, which is not something we've ever seen. And like the social dynamics are interesting in that there's a clear distinction. Why is it so hard to say distinction? Distinction between carnivores and herbivores, and there's a clear distinction between men and women at the same time, which is like the usual thing that we're used to seeing. Is like there'll be a bunch of girls sitting at the back of a class in a typical anime, and then there'll be a bunch of boys sitting in the front. They'll be like, "Oh, you like her," and they'll like shove him to the back and be like, "Go talk to her," or whatever. That's like what we're used to. But in this, we get that, as well as the added dynamic of there are carnivores, which literally someone is eating herbivores, like killing them. So it's adding things and like subverting expectations, and it's just doing a lot to work within the bounds of a traditional kind of anime setting, but at the same time like do things that wouldn't be expected of a show like this to be done. Like there is a version of the show where it's just animals in a school, and it's just a typical kind of romance plot with a like theater club side plot. We've seen that show like 45 times. There's a club, they do something kind of esoteric not many people know about, and then there's like a romance plot, as well as like you have to study for your exams or whatever. That's like the plot of like 40 shows. But this one, they do so much to go out of their way, not only with the visuals to show us things we haven't seen before, but also with the social dynamics to show us things we haven't seen before. And with talking about stuff like this, they're like giving each character their distinct, you know, like backstory that we don't usually get to see. Like everybody in a normal class, just we assume has come from a different middle school, and they all just have normal middle class lives without any kind of like special thing happening, which is why this relates to Euphoria so much for me, because in Euphoria they spend every episode focusing on one person who has something very unique about their life and their existence, which is kind of what we're getting at in this scene. So that's what makes this show special to me and why I like it. And I just think it does a lot to make the high school setting feel like it's an actual high school and not just some place where other things can happen. Anyway, continuing. I'm pretty sure that scene was a play on the whole elephant being scared of a mouse trope, because the mouse is literally yelling at an elephant to do something. So it's pretty clever. I'm sure that was a panel from the manga, and just for the mangaka to have thought of something like, let's put a mouse yelling at the elephant trope, like really for no reason other than to just play on all the different animal associations we have in our head. That's pretty cool. I'm stopping to talk about this too much, but I really just want to comment on all the different like social stuff that's happening here. So he's gotten to the point where he's so big that people don't really pray for his success anymore. They're all wishing for his failure, right? If you've seen Ping Pong, like the main like very successful world champ in that show, he gets so nervous before every match that he has to like go sit in the bathroom and just like puke and just sit there and focus, and he doesn't come out at all until this match starts. And when he comes out, he looks indomitable, and then he kills everyone and then goes back. And he's at that point, Lewis is, where he can't let his like true vulnerability show because people will pick on those, so he has to just hide them and just put up like this brave public face. And this is not really something that you see in a school anime, right? We usually see this with like an All Might or something like that, where he has a giant public role that he plays, and he has to stick to that no matter what. But for Lewis, he's just a high schooler, so for him, he's still immature to the point where he isn't, or he shouldn't be expected to do anything like this, but he's still being forced to because of just how much expectation is on him and what kind of ambition that he has. I thought that was interesting. Homoerotic vibes right here. Getting some serious homoerotic vibes right here. Okay. The music also makes the show for me. Like they say jazz in the very like opening of the whole show, like this is jazz, and I get that. But there's like swing, there's bop, there's like straight up free jazz, and there's like big band jazz. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the show, and it's just really, really good music. This is what I was thinking about from the beginning. So because they're like animals, and because they're distinguished between like carnivores, herbivores, as well as like prey, predator, as well as male and female, there's like all these different like categories that you can fit into, and for him it seems like this like strength that he wants to unleash, or like people want him to unleash, is kind of like this repressed male eagerness to like just fuck shit up. If you've watched the Joker movie, people were making like, before the movie came out, people were saying that it was going to be dangerous because it was going to inspire like violent acts, because the protagonist is kind of in a similar vein as Legosi, like this put upon a marginalized person who wants to like take control of his own life, and the only way that he knows how is by being violent. And here's Legosi as a counterpoint, where even when people ask him to be violent and to like exert his strength, he's still not willing to do it because he doesn't believe that's who he should be, or that is who he is at all. So interesting to see that, because it's so like kind of vague what it's referring to. You can analyze this show from a variety of different angles, and we're probably going to be doing that in the coming like 10 to 11 weeks, so stay tuned for that. Here's another symbolic thing that they just did. So he walks out of a room when they were sitting under a moon to go look at the sun, and he feels way happier looking at the sun. I've already made the connection to like Legosi, Dracula, Twilight, but this would be in the Twilight books. This would be when like Edward's family decides to stop eating humans and to just eat animals because they value humans too much. They don't want that like human killing to be what they're defined by. This is kind of like that. He's like, I'm a gray wolf, but like I don't want that to define me. I can be whatever I want to be. Pretty cool philosophy. This is again like reiterating on that, the concept of him having a private face and a public face, and we got like a very like bare portrayal of what his private face looks like when he just like assaulted Legosi in his own like dressing room or office or whatever it was. That's like his real private face, where he's resentful of the fact that he is a predator, or a prey rather, and that he's a deer, and that no matter how strong he gets, there are always going to be people stronger than him just because of their nature, and he wants to be like the alpha, right? Which leads me to believe like there's this one book way back in the day. I don't know what this is called. If someone knows what it's called, hit me up. I think it's written from the point of view of animals, and it's like set just after the dinosaurs all went extinct, so they're all mammals and they're all vegetarian. And then like one species decides to turn carnivore. He seems like that kind of guy to me. He's like, why do I have to sit here and not eat people? I could eat people too. Like, I'm powerful. I'm a deer. He wants to like take control of his life, but he feels kind of defeated by the point that there are other people who have their power repressed so that they can still function within society, whereas he's encouraged to like flourish and thrive because no matter how strong he gets, he can't like destroy anything. Whereas Legosi's like, he has to be contained, otherwise he will destroy everything, and he wants that kind of unbridled power, which just comes by nature, rather than him having to strive for something and still not being the ultimate like powerful entity that he wants to be. Interesting power dynamic. I don't know if you understood all that, or even if I understood all that. Who knows? Let me point out that when Lewis was playing Adler, the instrumentation was a solo saxophone. Just more examples of how the music and visuals are tied in with this show, and what makes the show really good. Like every part of it is just stitched together to like put forth the themes in like a way that you can understand, or at least your subconscious brain can understand. Oof, what an interesting episode of an interesting show. So this show is like probably my favorite of the whole season so far. I didn't get to cover it, but I did watch the second week of No Guns Life and Kabukicho Sherlock, and No Guns Life I think is starting to fall off the watch list for me. In any other season, I probably would have continued watching it, but the art just isn't up to par with everything that everyone else is doing this season. And the writing is a little bit like, it's not horrible, but it's not like amazing either. To the point where I would rather be covering Hoshiai no Sora and Beastars than doing that. That being said, let's talk about Beastars episode 3. It almost plays out kind of like a play. This show. It's like we're setting up different conflicts between different people. We're setting up like philosophical disagreements between Lewis and Legosi, and like Legosi's infatuation with the bunny, but like we don't really know where she's coming from with what she does and what she's known for in the school. We just know that she gets picked on. We kind of know where Legosi's coming from in the sense that he's like Fernando the Bull, in that he's naturally gifted with like great physical ability and like this violence that is just part of his nature, but he doesn't want to use it at all. In that sense, that's where the power dynamic comes from, with like him eating the bunny or whatever, but she's surprisingly chill for someone who almost got eaten. But maybe she's just chill like that, or maybe there's something deeper to that we might find out later on. I haven't read the manga, so I don't know, and I'm sure you guys will let me know that I'm off about everything or whatever. But by my estimation, this is probably like one of the deepest character dramas that we've seen in anime for a while now, and it's just refreshing to get something that's like so different to the point where it's familiar. Like, the people are all animals, and that kind of plays into the way that they do things, but really it's talking about like power and like agency and like taking control of your own life, and like the places that you come from need not dictate the places that you're going to. And these are kind of like very typical high school coming of age type themes. If you've read any John Green book, you'd be familiar with these. Taking power and like control of your life is something that people have been talking about in high school, but it's not something we typically see in anime, so that's why it's interesting, and I'm sure the source material is interesting as well. So maybe after this season I'll go read the manga, but this is a really solid episode 3. Like, if we were just assessing based on the 3 episode rule whether you would watch the show or not, I was immediately seized. Like, with the first opening, the minute of the opening, I was in. But for those of you who aren't, give this show 3 episodes. I'm sure you'll be convinced to watch it, and if you're not, just watch the opening. Like, that's pretty much the best thing that I've seen all year. So that's it for episode 3 of Beastars. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next video.